let's get some perspective on this. Is Azeroth the first one? No. Do we know what the first ones are? No. Are we ever going to fight first ones? No. I don't think so. The thing is, okay, so we have this place in the Shadowlands, in Zereth Mortis. It's called the Sepulchre of the First Ones. Sepulchre literally translates to burial place. It's a mountainous burial place. That's what a sepulchre is. Blizzard could do some weird, twisty-turny bullshit with the story that changes the sepulchre of the First Ones into not the place where the First Ones died, but rather like some other thing. But right now, the reading, as far as I can tell from the lore, it makes perfect sense that every single Zereth realm is going to have some kind of sepulchre, some kind of place where the First Ones went to die. Why do I say this? Because I believe, in my heart, I believe if you read all of the information from the expedition journal that we got from the brokers, it speaks about how the first ones had to, it had to become more. And so the first ones sacrificed themselves in order to create the universe, to be very specific, it states that the first one sacrificed a portion of themselves. So we can read this in one of two ways. The first one is a portion of themselves. In other words, every single one of the first ones gave a portion of themselves. The other way to read this is that the first one sacrificed some of the first ones in order to create the universe. So what we would look at here from a creation standpoint, from a creation perspective, is that when the first ones wanted to create the universe, they needed a catalyst. They needed something that would create life perpetually without needing to stop or needing any sort of interference. And that's why they sacrificed either a portion of themselves or a portion of themselves in order to create this universe, so that every single thing that has ever been designed, everything that has ever lived, is a part of the first ones. And it kind of makes sense to me if you listen to what Marasmus says, but as well as in Zereth Mortis, there's one of the brokers, I believe, that tells you that everything that dies comes back to Zereth Mortis in order to live again. So it creates this giant cycle. Now, I believe the way in which the first ones managed to ensure that this cycle would always continue and that the cycle would always be is by inserting themselves into the universe. That way, their souls are anchored within Zereth Mortis. So whenever a soul on Azeroth or in the Great Beyond dies, that soul automatically is anchored to one of the Zereth realms or to the Zereth Mortis realm. That's my sort of immediate thought. Now, onto the entire, let's fight the first ones. Should we fight the first ones? Is that a good idea? My initial response, like my knee-jerk reaction, is no. Because there is a point at which you start killing the gods where everything falls flat. It's sort of like, it's the same problem that I had with Shadowlands, where you got to peek behind the curtain and suddenly it feels a lot less impactful now that you've seen what's happening behind the curtain. Now, the same would be true for us killing gods, because if we were to kill the first ones, we are physically taking on the creators of our universe. This is not make-believe gods. This is not like the old gods, where the old gods are actually fragments of the Void Lords. And we don't even know what the Void Lords are, but the Void Lords might not even be gods. They might be similar to Titans. We could probably take on a Titan if there's enough of us and we have some outside help. But taking on a first one? I don't even think the Titans can take on first ones. How does a mortal defeat a god? Especially if these first ones have the powers that I think they have. If you look at all of our universe, we know that they are the ones that created all of the cosmological forces. We know that. We also know that they are the ones that made the cosmological forces work in harmony with one another. Well, not harmony, but, you guys know what I mean. The fact that they have that level of power suggests that if they wanted to, they could think us out of existence. So if we ever went up against the first one, all they would have to do is snap their fingers, and we would be nothing, because they literally created us. Therefore, how would we be able to fight them? Now, the only universe in which we could do that, and I realize that you guys might be getting whiplash, because I'm going back and forward and sort of trying to figure it out as I go. The only way for Blizzard to fix that, and for it to be possible for us to actually kill or face a first one, is if we are not actually part of this universe. Our relationship with Azeroth changed us. It made us something more. Now, in that universe, we could absolutely take on a first one. Absolutely. Again, there's so many new bits of information that we're now getting, especially with Dragonflight. But if you look at Dragonflight, okay, we now know that the Titans most likely lied to us. That's, of course, if we take the word of the Titan Keepers and we believe that the books are canonical, which I do. I realize there's a lot of people in World of Warcraft right now that refuse to take these books as true, because in their minds the light is holy and the Titans are holy, and never should the Titans be considered evil in any way, shape, or form, which to me is a very stupid way of thinking about it, but, you know, to each their own. From my perspective, I think those books are absolutely legitimate. They could be fake, but for now, I'm going to operate on the assumption that they're legitimate. In those books, we know that the Titans lied to us. We also know that there's been multiple lies about the Old Gods and what the Old Gods actually did and what the Black Empire actually was. We don't actually know what the Black Empire is. We don't know anything about the Old Gods, because the only information we've ever really gotten about the Old Gods is that they're enemies. What is super interesting whenever we listen to Xal'atath or to the other Old Gods, they don't have the same view of everyone else. Xal'atath even says this. The light views us as monsters, enemies that should be defeated. But we don't share that view. We view them simply as brothers and sisters that have lost their way, and they shall return to the masters in time. Why does the Void not share that view? What is it about the Void? What is so different about the Void? The relationship that the Old Gods have with Azeroth, the relationship that we have with Azeroth, it just appears as if Azeroth is the unknown. And now we go back to the Chronicles. The Titans explain that they arrived at a planet. They told Sargeras this. They arrive at a planet that they've never made anything so powerful in their lives. They tell Sargeras about Azeroth and how powerful she is. Is it possible that Azeroth isn't even one of them? Would you guys make any possibility for that? However slight, do you think that there is a possibility that Azeroth isn't a Titan? Because if you can even imagine that there is a possibility for it, it opens the door for a whole lot of new questions. Most specifically, what is she? If not a Titan, what is she? And if she is more powerful than any of the other Titans, what are we? That's my answer. She's like a Catan shard? I mean, it is possible, right?